Very good evening to everybody who is joining in today for today's session on higher education and society. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker today, Dr. Nilratan R. Shende, whose work exemplifies a deep commitment to the transformative power of education and sustainable development in society. With a PhD from the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, Dr. Shende's research on food insecurity and hunger among tribal communities in Melghat has significantly contributed to understanding and addressing pressing social challenges. Dr. Shende's extensive career spans over 2 decades, during which he has demonstrated exemplary leadership in the realms of corporate social responsibility, rural development, and social entrepreneurship. Currently serving as the Senior General Manager of Corporate Social Responsibility at All Cargo Logistics Limited, he has been instrumental in devising impactful strategies aligned with the 2013 Companies Act, ensuring sustainable and community focused interventions. His innovative initiatives have positively touched the lives of thousands across rural and tribal India. Moreover, as the founding director of Eagle, an agro-based rural social enterprise, Dr. Shende has spearheaded groundbreaking projects empowering marginalized tribal communities through sustainable livelihoods. His work in this domain has been recognized nationally, earning accolades for promoting tribal entrepreneurship in innovative ways. Dr. Shinde is not just a practitioner, but also an intellectual voice in the field, having presented papers at international conferences and published extensively on topics like malnutrition, food security, and sustainable development. His articles and research reports reflects his dedication to bridge the gap between policy and practice, particularly for underserved communities. Today, we are privileged to hear Dr. Shinde speak on the theme of higher education society, a topic close to his heart and integral to his vision of socioeconomic empowerment. I will now request Dr. Shinde to share his perspectives and experiences with us. Thanks for making the time, Dr. Shinde.
Thank you so much for that flowering introduction. I'm grateful to you. And let me just share that how did this happen. On 1st of November, Dhruva sir reached out to me. Uh, our our distinguished professor Robinson, who taught me at IIT Bombay. It seems she spoke with him, and that is how he got to know about our work that we are doing uh, through Eagle Livelihood Foundation across 6 to 7 states of India. And thereafter he introduced me to Mr. Prakash, and that is how Mr. Prakash took a lot of efforts reaching out to me, and I essentially saw this as an opportunity not only to present the kind of work that we do through Eagle Livelihood Foundation, but uh, but we thought it would be good opportunity to share the work with the illustrious people who are here. So, uh, I was just going through uh, the schedule of the speakers, and I could see the people, a lot of illustrious people from prestigious institutes like NIEPA, Hyderabad University, IIT Bombay, uh, IUCAA, Cotton University, Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education. These are really prominent institutions, and to accommodate small budding organization like Eagle, and providing this platform to share the work that we have done. So we are really grateful to the organizers for giving us this opportunity to present our work on the theme of higher education and society. I was going through some data a few days back, which states that we produce about 20,000 PhDs, over 20,000 PhDs in a year. So the kind of knowledge that we are producing in the research domain is really huge. But the larger question is how many of those PhDs are able to really solve the problems that people confront with countries that is grappling with these issues. So it would be effective, even more effective, if that knowledge production, that experience of the research can be useful and beneficial for the people at the bottom of the pyramid and at the macro level country at large. So such kind of sensitization program is definitely a stepping stone towards towards good learning, accommodating them, helping us being more compassionate and kind, and eventually building the consciousness to contribute back to the society through our research, through our policy making, through our experience, and by engaging with the field and addressing the lacunas that we have. So I'm sure each one of you who are present here, I, uh, I, I consider this my privilege to be with you, because I strongly feel that i- intellectual class has a greater role to play. And it is said that in intellectual class is always the influential class, and they have larger responsibility on their shoulders to shape the policies of the country in the interest of the people, marginalized people, deserving section of the society. And we owe a better, they owe a better world, and we have larger responsibilities to share. So uh, so uh, so uh, I would be speaking briefly about how was my journey of how has been my childhood, how was my training, educational training, how did I come to the PhD, and how PhD transformed into the social enterprise, and how Eagle is really taking very strong steps forward towards building inclusive India. And what kind of changes, how did it evolve over the period of time, what kind of transition did it undergo, what kind of challenges we had to face in terms of sustaining the initiatives, how Eagle is a story of institutional building, how we have managed to spread the work from state of Maharashtra to about 5 6 more states like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Noida, Haryana. And one of the challenges lot many enterprises face is really scaling up the pilot tested successful models. And therefore it is really very important to share to throw some light on it. What is the kind of current target groups and beneficiaries that we are serving? What are the initial numbers that we have started with, and how research in a way helped me and Eagle to scale up the organization, scale up its program, build a strong team around it, being open to the ideas, and how it has helped, how research has helped, how data collection has helped, how impact assessment has helped us, and how Eagle is and essentially we in intellectual and influential class, how collectively can we contribute towards the social problem, how can we improve the quality of life, how can we contribute towards the constructive nation building, how can we build the inclusive societies, and most importantly, uh, coming back to the story of Eagle, which is a story of sacrifice, story of commitment. story of hope and story of transforming aspirations into realizing dreams of the people at the bottom of the pyramid. So, friends, coming back to some of the how did it all start. So after my so I belong to a small village by the name Pawnee, which is eastern part of Vidarbha, which is really very backward. So till my graduation I was there. uh, Actually, I get very uncomfortable when I speak about myself and journey of Eagle, which is really proud making to me. But sometimes I also get a feeling that I end up bragging. I end up in self bragging, so that makes me very uncomfortable. But in the interest of how such model can be a good success story and inspire lot many educators and researchers to take up similar course. So in the interest of society research and in the interest of application, I thought of just taking you through this journey, because its journey is very challenging journey. At times could be very motivating to some. So till my graduation, I was there. I have graduated. I went to very modest school, Jilla Parishad Municipal School, Jilla Parishad Junior College, and then I have graduated from Shivaji Science College in 1999, and thereafter I came to TIS due to my strong inclination. I was there till 2002, and after my degree in social work, I I had opportunity of working with a project with World Bank, and then I also helped Tata Power Company to set up their CSR initiatives, and uh, then I joined the PhD program with IIT Bombay with focus on poverty, hunger, and starvation deaths among tribes in Maharashtra, a case study of Melghat. So if some of you know about Melghat is notorious for malnutrition deaths of India. And when I started research in 2005, Shining India campaign was going on very strongly, and that would create a doubt in my mind. So the doubt that I always had in my mind was, what kind of Shining India are we witnessing? What kind of growth are we having? On one hand, we have accelerated economic growths. On the other, we have malnutrition deaths of the children in the tribal areas, also in urban pockets. So why do we have this dichotomy of development? There should be something seriously wrong. I I had opportunity of reading Amartya Sen's and lot many sociologists and other research papers. So that also in also helped me build my perspective about it. And from academic exploration, I started approaching the problem of hunger and poverty, and that is how I went to Melghat. And I was very conscious from the outset that if whatever observations, whatever experiences I am having with the people should have strong bearing afterwards. So when I was there in Melghat for about 18 months, I chose those 18 months. So I wanted to understand the kind of seasonal changes, and with that seasonality change, how does life of the tribal community changes? What is the dependence of the tribals over the forest resources? How tribal life changes? What are the structures of the tribal life? What is their culture? How do they see poverty? What are the subjective perceptions related to the poverty? How do tribal control the economy of in the tribal areas? So after understanding all this, it was very important for me to be very conscious, and how the PhD could be the beginning to start something new. So lot many PhDs which are undertaken mostly end up mostly end up in publishing the papers, writing the research articles, publishing some books. But yes, I have all done that. But most importantly, what was what was really interesting for me to contribute back to the people, to change their life, and the way I have mined their knowledge, I have mined their experiences. It was time for me to give back to them in some form or other. So some of the narratives. So the field that I had opportunity of being there for about 18 months, uh, during various stages, during summer, during rainy season, during winter, and during summer. And each of these seasons have also brought change in their life. So so uh, so when you approach the field, you also sometimes some narration, some oral histories, they really form the and they really become important part of it, and they stay with you, they appeal to a great extent. So likewise, I also had similar kind of experiences. So those have really left very deep impact on me. So I wish to also share those anecdotes and narrations with you, which has inspired me to be conscious, because consciousness framing has a lot of background behind it. So if you also, once I share these anecdotes and narratives, you would also be able to relate how this consciousness shaped in me, and how I used these narrations and anecdotes as a motivation force, as a aspiring force to give back to the society. How can those be used in improving the life of the people? So to me, understanding the subjective perceptions of the poverty was very important. So lot many sociologists and researchers contributed poverty and malnutrition, that's to the demographic factors, to which I thought that is really very simplistic interpretation of poverty, because poverty has been there since generational ages and civilizations, but still there are some people who still live with the poverty. So what are the structures that help perpetuate that poverty? So uh, one of the things that I tried to look at, how what are the structures, and which what are the tribal, social structure, economic structure, cultural structure, political structure, educational structure, and how does that contribute sometimes to perpetuation of the poverty. I also tried to look at what has been the response of the democratic institutions to poverty in Melghat. What was the response of legislature? What was the response of the judiciary? What was the response of media? And what was the response of the community? Was community inactive? How retaliative was the community? And I also tried to document those things through my research. So some of the things that I captured through the oral histories, by engaging with the people in through detailed discussion, and that stuck to me and still inspires me, is during one night I was staying with Jinda Dhurve's family, where they did not had a light, access to light. It was a small hut, but the hut was big enough to accommodate me during the field visit. And I always gave focus on how do people look at the poverty. And it from the research point of view also, it was important for me to understand their subjective perceptions. So I was just trying to understand subjective perceptions related to food insecurity to him, from him, and trying to understand how do they pursue pursue hunger and food insecurity. So one of the he said, mm, while inquiring, I was inquiring, he said, when we see the rooftop in our plate, eating plate, then we sense that subjective uh, then we see the period of kal has arrived. So I did not understand. I asked him to simplify. He said, when there is nothing to eat or lesser to eat, we eat eat liquid food, and when we put that liquid food and try to drink, the reflection of the rooftop, there is reflection of the rooftop in the plate. So that analogy really struck me a lot. And so I had these oral conversations, oral histories with which with older people, with youth, with women. So one such instance was with a young group, and I was just talking to the younger people in the village. So there was about 28-year-old man by the name Bhuna. So I was also trying to capture their aspirations and how do they see hunger as. He said, except grass, we eat everything for our survival. So that also underlined their vulnerability and lack of resources to to deal with the hunger. And I was also similar kind of discussion I was having with the older person in the village. And I have seen how moneylender was capturing the resources at the village. How was he exorbitantly charging 150% lending rate. He was giving money to the people. So it was really very shocking. So at the outset, we would believe that the people would not be aware about the exploitation that they face. But we were really wrong. And he said, the outsiders, the jangdis, they jangdis is the word that people of Melghat usually refer to the outsiders. So this, he said, jangdis are bed bugs, and they suck our blood. So that was really a very touching narratives. That was really very touching narrative to me. So these three things and few more observation really struck a chord with me. And these three narratives symbolize the entire Melghat systems, how uh, outsider are controlling the tribal economy, agricultural based resources as well as forest based resources, the kind of food insecurity that tribals were facing, what kind of vulnerability that tribals were experiencing, and in absence of availability of the food, how was tribes coping even by being ready to eat the grass. So that kind of vulnerability the people experienced, and I have observed. So after having seen such kind of vulnerabilities, so it was very important for me to be to be to be on the top of the things and come out with some alternatives which would address these economical exploitation at the village level, the social and economical vulnerability that tribals were facing, and how aligned with the sustainability theme could help in coming out with the alternative model of development. So that was I was very conscious at the outset. And in consultation with the people in 2011, we started helping some families with eagle. But the larger question was, how do we start, which activity should we undertake? uh, but when you understand the agrarian society, tribal society, we have realized that through the research, we have realized that it is very important to work with the people, which with the traditional occupations we have to capitalize on. So what were the traditional occupations which had a strength of building sustainability while working on the alternative livelihoods. So 13 different kind of coping mechanisms I had identified. In those coping mechanisms, we have seen uh, reliance on the livestock as one of the important coping mechanisms that tribals have evolved. So while working with the people, while consulting with the people, various stakeholders at the community level, I always believed that building consensus at the community level understood important. So when you approach the field from the perspective of or you as expert, then you tend to complicate the things. So I always approached field and field realities from the perspective of facilitator. So we presented to the people what could be done. We had very engaging discussions with them. Can we start with dairy? Can we start with cow? Can we start with buffalo? In light of so much exorbitant interest rate, can we introduced some kind of microcredit linkage facilities? Can we come up with some kind of non-banking financial institutions? So those were some of the thoughts that were coming to my mind, and I kept sharing that with the people. But one is having a long-term vision, and second is having a short-term goals and long-term goals, and aligning that goals with the larger vision was very important for us to have that point in time. So so that coping mechanisms that we have identified through reliance on the livestock played vital role in narrowing down on us. So gradually some few things started, we started filtering in consultation with the people. For example, when you have buffaloes and cows, you need to cater to different kind of social categories: the people with land, people with resources. So that kind and maintaining cows and buffaloes is even more expensive, and even from the cost effectiveness perspective, we would not have afford to introduce buffaloes and cows at that point in time. But because our focus was more on serving the most marginalized section of the society, which is Kurku tribal communities, which was landless in nature. So how do you work with the landless communities and work handhold with them so that you get to reduce their vulnerabilities? Therefore we have, uh, in consultation with the people, we I have narrowed down on reliance on the livestock, and with particular focus on livestock, we have introduced goat. Why goat? Goat was easy to maintain. People had traditional occupations previously. Goat rearing has been traditional occupation for the many of the tribal groups. So we narrowed down on goat rearing. Goat as a medium to medium of change has been selected in consultation with the community stakeholders, and thereafter we thought it's very important to start working on them. So it so when we were explaining, so I was just sharing with you how sustainability was important from the point of view of building the organization. So the way FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, defined food security is, it is defined on the parameters of availability of the food, access to the food, and purchasing power of the individual. So if you have to build the organization based on the sustainability, you have to start something which has very strong community connect, and community should capitalize on it. So one of the very strong coping mechanism that we have identified, which was in alignment with the sustainability and potential sustainability, was the reliance on livestock, which had potential of increasing the purchasing power and also bringing in sustainability aspect in it. So that sustainability approach we have introduced through introducing goat rearing to the community. So reliance on livestock was one of the 13 different kind of coping mechanisms that I have identified during my research that tribal community uses as a medium to cope with the hunger. So it's not like that tribals were really passive recipient of the onslaughts that they were just receiving. There has been, they have demonstrated adequate resilience to fight back and demonstrate the communities will to adjust, adapt, and then they have built these kind of community mechanisms. So we have just worked on how and why these these goats were introduced. We have pilot tested that model for about 2.5 years, and then after assessing the impact, we have seen very positive impact of it. We have seen how labor relations have changed, how income of their targeted families has increased, how it has led to the confidence building of the families that we were working in. We conservatively started this program with 5 families in Toranwadi, which was one of the research targeted village for my research. And we started working with these 5 families. I have identified volunteers which were young and wanted to align with something very constructive. So it was very important for me to identify those key youth leaders from the community, because from the outside it would be very difficult for me to monitor the program from the acceptability point of view, and also from the monitoring point of view. It was very important to to identify such key important people from the community. So after pilot testing it, uh, we have got the confidence. I must share this with you that 20 yeah, late from 28 onwards, that decade of 2010s and initial 2020s, that was also the time when a lot of funding from overseas came into the startups to scale up their business. So I had one thing in my schedule that every day I have made a point to me that in to do list I would write at least 5 mails to different angel investors, to startups, to key investors, and introduce our work to them without fail for about 3 to 4 months. And then also beyond that I have managed to do. The only interest was you need money to start something of this nature. I did not had money. Barely I had started the job. I was on the scholarship, and I was also recently that time married for a year. But my wife supported to me, and those initial 5 families was even more difficult to support. But by that time I realized that uh, people will not trust unless you have idea feasible idea at the ground. So that early realization helped me to come out of the comfort zone and invest in the communities. So how would investment come when you have very meager resources to support yourselves? So my wife had one Mangal Sutra. She mortgaged that Mangal Sutra, and we raised some initial capital for 5 families, and that is how our journey of impact making started. And then we sustained it for a year and a half. And in that period of 2.5 years gave us enough confidence. And when you do good things, your good things are recognized by the people. Nature also tend to help you with good things. And when you have community interest at your heart, and people also come out to support. So likewise, nature also helped us some way in 2016. Initially our work was brought to the notice of one of the prominent PSUs, Mascot of Shipbuilders Limited. So, and they got to know about our work on the most vulnerable communities like Kokus, and thereafter they approached us, and we have engaged with them, and first time we had fundraising from the institutes through CSR. So we managed to raise about 1 crore 30 lakhs through Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited for about 200 families. And and we successfully implemented that program with the 200 tribal families. And that was also the time when the kind of impact that we were demonstrating came 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 to the notice of some journalist, and your stories had made a story on us, how PhD transformed into the social institutions, and they captured beautifully how has been the impact, what has been the PhDs, what is the kind of model that we are trying to work, how do we work with the most marginalized people at the bottom of the pyramid, what impact have we managed to brought in their lives, and the quality of life that we have managed to change for the targeted communities. And fortunately, uh, and that piece was shared with the key policymakers, with government of India and government of Maharashtra. That is how some key people from the principal secretary is ranked, some key IAS officers, collector and assistant collectors, they reach out to us. We had a meeting with the principal secretary, tribal development department. We had a patient hearing from Manisha Verma, who then was principal secretary of the Tribal Development Department, and uh, through consultation with the key stakeholders like central government, state government, district collectors, assistant assistant collectors, project officers, and deputy secretaries, consultants, managing directors of the tribal development departments. And fortunately that consultation helped in forming the partnership. And you would be pleased to know that we have managed to raise about 11 crores. So that is massive jump, tenfold jump from our previous fundraise. And we have but the road wasn't easy. In 20 we had to uh, one thing I have diligently have been doing is whenever there are meetings, and I never was a reason for any delay. I conducted about 21 meetings with these key stakeholders, ranging from principal secretaries to the managing directors. After 21 meetings, I had to revise my budget 21 times. And even the GR, the resolution, government resolution that we call it, that also had to undergo a change for 4 5 times. And finally government resolution came in, and we had to then we had a massive challenge when COVID struck. Yeah. And there was entire deployment of the resources. So money that we have got, about 11 crores, have still not reached out to us. But we ensured, we did not lose faith in ourselves. We kept on working with the key stakeholders. uh, that time, for this program, there was a component of bank guarantee. So 42 lakh bank guarantee Eagle Foundation had to give. So I had to take personal loan of about 36 lakhs to raise that bank guarantee. And after submitting the bank guarantee, the project was sanctioned. And uh, and that is how we have started working. We had to influence a lot in terms of building the life of the in the interest of building the life of the people. So one of the important contributions, that in terms of personal sacrifices that I had to make, is in terms of liquidation of the houses, taking personal loan from the bank, seeking help from the friends. I even had to liquidate my house to sustain this initiative in all. I had to invest about over 1 crore 50 lakhs to sustain this initiative without anticipating any percent of return on the investment. The only motive that I had in my mind was how I can create a more feasible and sustainable model for the most primitive tribal communities, which can be scaled up. I was very conscious at the outset that I don't have to create just a model in some isolated tribal areas. If that model is not getting replicated in other part of the states, and that fails to the test of replicability, then we are doing great injustice on ourselves, on our capacities, on our potentials, and we are imposing great injustice on the most deserving families. So that kind of outset and mindset that we had to the problem of hunger and poverty. So that kind of orientation, that kind of approach and underlining sustainability theme has really helped us in creating the model. But what was the model that we have created, you would be pleased to know. So let me shed some light on it. What was that model that we have created, and beyond that model, what have we managed to done. So the model of Eagle is like any other company that creates a business proposal. Likewise, we have worked extensively on the prototype and created a very good model which is replicable in nature, which is feasible, which is impact making, and which clears the test of SOPs. So our focus has always been on preparedness of the beneficiaries, preparedness of the people that we work with. So when we work with the people, for us it was extremely important to identify the needy, deserving, and and willing section of the society who wish to work with us. So identification of such families was a step towards taking that was the first step towards people's participation. People's participation in such kind of a program is very very important. So therefore our focus was on preparedness of the beneficiaries. So preparedness of the beneficiaries comprises of construction of the shades, construction of the machan for the goats, and also making them undergo rigorous goat rearing training so that they can handle the goats extremely well. And we have also introduced the stabilization protocol. So you would be those who are aware how fragile is the goat can be very impact making, very lucrative in terms of investment point of view, but it can also be very fragile. Goat is a very fragile animal, and you have to handle it with care. So we have introduced stabilization protocol. So stabilization protocol essentially deals with the stress of the goat once the goats from other areas are introduced to the new geographical area. That protocol is worked on. So so we also have introduced risk mitigation mechanism. So what does risk mitigation mechanism mean for the goat program? So that means introduction of the insurance. So we had universal insurance for all the goats, because if there is any mortality of the goats, so that is a loss to the farmer, that is loss to the tribal family, which is very difficult to fathom for them. So therefore making or availing these insurance schemes was very important for us. The other important thing that we have managed to introduce was the doorstep service delivery. Doorstep service delivery was very important from the point of view of providing timely vaccination to the goats, and also, you know, what the other is that we have managed to do, managed to check keep this on check was the retention of the original goods. So retention of the original goods was very important for us. So vaccination timely monitoring and training, doorstep service delivery has ensured. So doorstep service delivery has two component. One, it has impact on uh, saving the wages. We can't afford the tribal farmers to visit the nearest veterinarians, government clinic, and avail the services by losing their wages. So therefore, this kind of goat rearing, doorstep service delivery has enabled the farmers not to lose their wages and avail the goat services timely. Other important segment that we had worked on was convergence with the government. So we thought that working in isolation should not be ideal thing to do. Silos would be disadvantageous for the target communities that we serve, and therefore it was very important for us to have cordial relationship with various inline department like livestock department, EGS department, even the project office of the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. We had healthy relations with. And one of the important thing that we have integrated in this model was the sustainability. So we introduced this sustainability from two point of views. One is from the programmatic point of view, and secondly from the services point of view. So let me share from the services point of view how we have managed to integrate it. One of the key element is providing veterinary care services. So we have introduced Pashu Sakhi model in all these villages, and also ensure that inline departments build the capacities and provides the vet care services to the tribal families with the assets. And second important thing, which is even more important, and we were very conscious at the outset, was how, yeah, the whichever resources that you have would be limited in nature, right? So therefore we made each and every beneficiary aware that how these resources were mobilized, how strong, how difficult is it to mobilize the resources, and how poor people can be a strength in itself. What is the strength of the poor people? Strength of the poor people lies in their unity. So how can unity be leveraged in terms of reaching out to more beneficiaries and making the program more sustainable in nature? So that is how we have introduced the concept of passing the goat. So passing the goat through gift as a medium of gift to their nearby, to their own relative into the village, and documenting it and acknowledging it, so you can really understand the transformation that comes in the life of the beneficiary. When we start with them, they start with us as underprivileged, vulnerable, marginalized tribal farmer, and that transforms to a donor itself in span of about 1.5 year. So that kind of self-reliance, that journey of the tribal household from vulnerability to empowerment, has really given us a lot of confidence. So this is how we have managed to evolve the model, and we kept on working with the tribal families and managed to scale up the program. And we also had a lot of challenges to face, and we have managed to overcome these challenges very successfully. But having done all these, having introduced very innovative open-ended models in the interest of the community to serve the people, and also build the communities and build the resilience in them, and also improve the inclusivity element, what kind of impact that we have managed to brought in. So the way I inspire myself with these anecdotes from the field, from Melghat. Though similarly, the impact-based narratives and anecdotes further motivate me to serve more and more people. And it also gives fillip to your confidence, boost the team, and also inspire us to reach more and more people and bring smile on their face. So I just want to share few, at least a couple of such anecdotes with you. I was in a Satgao village. So I was interacting with Sima Mukne. So the kind of target groups that we work on are very vulnerable, very fragile. They do not have resources. They are landless in nature, and they about 80% of them are working on the brick clean industry. So you can understand how vulnerable are they, about six, and that span of working on the brick clean and staying in the indebted bonded state. The span varies from various families to families. So and violence has a regular feature. So they can't escape the violence. So when Sima Mukne got to know about her initiative, she approached and we handed over the goats to her. And that has given her confidence that someone, then she has taken a conscious decision that she will not go to the brick lane. She will stay back into the village, nurture the goats, and she said very interesting things to us one day while interacting. Even she said, uh, even she can have liberty of staying in the shade of the tree. So you can imagine, even a shade of a tree is luxury to her, which was such a natural thing. Even seeking the shade of a tree was not possible for her when she was engaged into it. So she organized lot many women into the villages. She asserted against this brick lane owner, and she mortgaged her small ornament, and returned 10,000 rupees to the brick lane owner. And she said, don't touch my husband. If he has incurred the loss, we will give you we will repay you. You are not supposed to inflict any violence on us. So what is it that has given confidence to such a vulnerable tribal woman to assert the against the employer, and for just things? So it is the 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 feeling of alternate livelihood, economical empowerment. This is how the change bring can be brought into the communities and can be sustained. And this assertion of the communities is a very talking example in itself. How can this be sustained? Other example was in early morning into the village. About a landowner came into the village, and he was trying to seek some help from the for his own field. He said, uh, can I find someone to as a laborer on a daily basis? The woman asked him, how much will you pay? The landless Katkari woman asked him. So he said, I will give 200 rupees. So she instantly give him counter offer. The offer was, she offered, I will give you 300 rupees, take my goats and graze them for a day, I will pay you 300. So that is the kind of change in the labor relations. The employer, and the kind of from journey of vulnerability to asking, giving such counter offer to the key landowner of the village, is speaks volumes against the things. So therefore, it is such kind of impact, and the narratives and anecdotes has really inspired us to do more for many such Sima Muknes, Jayant Wag, and other few things. And I am pleased to share that some of our beneficiaries, by liquidating the goods, they have constructed their own house. They have also purchased the tractor, which has become a source of adding up the source to their livelihoods. And what are the other larger impact, in addition to these anecdotes? What are the other impact that we could bring into the life of the tribal communities? So one evident thing that we have managed to change and brought into the life of the people was a reduction in the migration of the tribal families. The pattern of migration also has changed. Initially, entire family would migrate to the bricklane industry. Now, gradually, from migration with family to singular migration, and then to no migration. So that was the kind of pattern we have observed among the families that we are working with. And this goat-based livelihood, additional earnings, has also helped them to diversify their income. Some of the families have started availing the land on lease. Can you imagine vulnerable Katkari family into Shahapur who was working on the brick lane and was a bonded labor for about 30 years, has asset of over 3 lakh rupees in his house, and now he is availing the land on lease into the same in the same village. So that transformation also inspire nearby communities and people. About 34% people that we work with have started tilling the land locally. That gave them additional food security, and also the kind of manure that comes out of the goat rearing, that is used for agricultural purpose, that reduces the cost on the fertilizers, enhances the productivity for these farmers, and the the issue of food insecurity is settled through this. And the goat rearing interventions have has really brought a very good change in them. I mean, the families that we are working, that we have managed to liberate them from the bonded labor. So we have seen some of the family like Jayvant, family like Sima Mukne. Sima has taken birth on the bricklane industry, and it is very unfortunate that she had to work for about 20 years, and she also had to deliver her baby on the bricklane industry. So that kind of vulnerability these community faces. But what kind of change that reduction in the migration has brought into the life of the people? uh, the evident change that was introduced into the life of the people was, people have started availing PDS, public distribution system entitlements. The students and the kids that would lose their education, which is password for development, they have enrolled more such students into the schools, into the ICDS. There is significant improvement in midday meal scheme entitlements. The employment guarantee schemes cards were opened up, and about 30% of our families have availed goat shed through employment guarantee scheme. We have managed to reduce the vulnerabilities by providing them Aadhaar card, basic identity proof of Aadhaar, caste certificates where they were not having. Our team has really worked hard and worked with the inline departments and ensured that each one of them owns these basic identity based cards. And of course there is a good amount of asset building. Social capital has also increased, and 92% uh, hun- 92% of the women who are our beneficiaries feels that they are more secure. They don't have to face the violence. There is increase in the level of the confidence of the women. So what women's empowerment is all about? Women's empowerment is all about feeling confident, having control over their financial resources, the control over the decision making. These are some of the things we could see the we are managed to influence into the field. The So these are some of the impacts that friends we have managed to bring in through our initiatives. And most importantly, what we have learned over the period of time is how but we did not stop here. We did not the bottom line of this was, although we have started with goat rearing, but we did not stop with goat rearing itself, because just working exclusively on goat rearing would have excluded lot many families. Therefore we have included healthcare, education. We have included climate change resilience building, because tribal are in sync with nature, and they have been playing very important role in addressing the climate change issues. So we have also come up with a very noble idea, and we have realized this early that unless you integrate technology into your functioning, into your operation, you it would be very difficult for you to sustain program of this kind. So Eagle, you'd be pleased to know, Eagle has become one of the first company in India and in the globe which has introduced blockchain technology into climate change resilience building programs. And it is really been recognized by national and international media of late, and it is being seen as potential model to fight the poverty, to fight the food insecurity, and to fight the climate change, and building the strong resilient communities. So it gives us a lot of confidence, that we have created tech enabled platforms and models to deal with the systems, and the integration with the tech element has helped us in reaching out to more beneficiaries, giving confidence to the donors, and also work strongly on compliance and the governance, because without focus on compliance and governance, we should not have come this far. Now, the journey which started with about 5 families in Toranwadi, with so journey of 5 families, from we are catering to about 3 lakh people, which is very significant addition and step, I would say. And the credit goes to our very strong committed team which slogs into the field, and also the very efficient board and advisory board that we have. And also, of course, goes without saying, the kind of confidence that our donors have demonstrated in the programs. So the in a nutshell, Eagle the story of Eagle has been a story of a lot of sacrifices. The story of Eagle has been a story of a lot of determination and courage. And also, Eagle is a story of hope and aspiration, and building very strong inclusive societies and contributing towards a constructive nation building. So this is what I have to share with you all. And over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dr. Shende. That was a very illuminating talk, addressing a lot of challenges that the marginalized communities face. Um, so at this point, we could take in any questions and comments from participants. Uh, Participants should be able to unmute themselves and ask any questions. If you have trouble with your mic, you can always type it in the chat. So right now, you mentioned that Eagle, your company is expanding in many different states, and you have identified different people to actually reach out, right, in all these places.
Right.
Mm.
So we work in West Bengal. We work in West Bengal, in particular, South 24 Parganas and Purulia district of West Bengal, which is aspirational district. And over there, uh, we are working on the climate change model. We are helping LTI Mindtree Limited to take effective steps towards their carbon neutrality. So the programs on environment and climate change focus I was talking about was not only just a program on enhancing the environment conservation initiatives, but also create the sustainable livelihoods by giving adult fruit bearing plants to the farmers. So so why would farmer take the burden of someone else carbon footprint?
Mm.
So it is a effective steps towards uh, making the company carbon neutral. So, and also contributing towards a vision of being carbon neutral as a country by 2070.
Mm. You mentioned this blockchain, which I keep hearing too. I'm sure many people do, but what exactly does the problem that it solves?
Yes, that's very important question. Um, so one of the challenge that you face in evaluating climate oriented programs is the validity. validity of what you have done, verifications and monitoring. So I can always say to, let's say, donor A, that is ONGC, that we have, let's say, planted 1 lakh trees and there is a survival of 100%, and I can pat my back always and pat my and pass the compliment to the team of the hard work. And I can also show those 1 lakh trees to other donor B, and tell them that, okay, we have also planted the 1 lakh plants for you. But the larger problem that blockchain integration solve is, it is a foolproof mechanism, tamper-proof mechanism for monitoring. If the block are created, if the farmers are captured, their geotag locations are captured, KML files are created, they are monitoring visits and live pictures of the farms, you'd be able to track the program on your dashboard. So the donors that are working with us, they would be able to see number of farmers, number of male, female, what are their geo tag location, what are the kind of species that we have created. And even if they want to track, let's say, farmer Nilratan, where is he from, they can scan the code and they would be able to see which location they are in. So that kind of uh, boost in terms of monitoring, boost in terms of verification, because when program goes to Vera and gold standards, it becomes very difficult to substantiate, right? So these are, we have created the building blocks towards the verification, so that the process of verification and registration with Vera and gold standard become easier for them and us to claim the carbon credits.
Mm, okay. So there's no centralized person certifying that you have done these things.
So
Every
therefore,
tree you plant, it does it like has a blockchain
yes.
associated with that and all that.
Yes, you are right. You are right. Each species is plant, each farmer is blockchained.
But then somebody has to verify that, right? Whether the blockchain corresponds to a real thing or.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they have to take the photos and upload, so one cannot
Um,
remove or delete those verifiable evidences.
okay, thanks. There is a hand raised by Professor Maitai. Could you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, you are right
Yes, sir.
now.
Okay, so I just want, there was a very encouraging story and very challenging work. And I just want to know how was the educational level of the people when you started your project, and how is the condition at present? Okay? Because ultimately it will be the educational attainment of the people which will be raising the level of standards of the people. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I
Thank you.
agree with you completely, because primary needs are definitely the needs for food and addressing the hunger. But as we go up, naturally, as some of the things that I have stated, as the vulnerability has reduced and there is more enrollment of the primitive tribal groups to the schools and the ICDS centers. So initially, it was very difficult for them to avail such schemes from the government, although there is right to education, due to their uh, pressing social vulnerabilities and family related vulnerabilities, they were not able to support. Now, as they are getting more income through this medium, some of the families are even sending their children to outstation villages and supporting their studies through their own assets. So that is the kind of positive outreach and change you can see into the community.
So a lot of this funding comes through CSR from the companies.
Yes, about uh, when we started, it was it started with with one company. Now, in the second year, it came largely through the government. About 90% of funds came from the government. Now the funding of the government has reduced, and we are now working with about 14 different corporate partners, and we have, I am proud to say that We have committed fund for this financial year to the tune of about 16 crores, and we have mobilized about 67 crores for next 3 financial years to support our programs.
I see. Uh, does this microcredit, which used to be, I mean, I used to hear about that a lot more earlier. Are these things effective in these regions? Have you, according to your experience on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, some of the banks, microcredit institutions, one of the challenge that why other player are able to lend informally at 150% is primarily due to absence of formal credit linkages, and that adds to their vulnerability. But some rural PSUs banks, they are able to create some kind of penetration into it, but although it is not ideal, a long way to go to create the formal credit institutional structures to to improve on those accessibility, because lot many of these banks pursue poor as not bankable. So that challenge is still prevailing, but we hope that we have better formal credit institutional structures in place to cater to the credit needs of the farmers and tribal communities.
Would your enterprise be also able to address that, or the structure is very different for that?
No, structure financial NBFC structures, banking structures are extremely different. We try to
No,
create
the
because
microcredit is slightly different than regular banking, isn't it? Or
yeah.
it's
Right. However, we use one of their theme, like joint liability group. We use to reduce the reduce the let's say the risk of goat rearing liquidations by the beneficiaries. For example, when because good practices from any stream you can borrow, therefore we have borrowed joint liability group operation mechanisms from the NBFCs and banking financial institutions, and as a good practice to address the risk, we have integrated that. For example, when we give the goods, we form the joint liability groups of 5 people, 5 women, and hand them over the good. So each one monitors each other good. So you would be pleased to know one our retention ratio for goat is 100%. Not a single goat is sacrificed, not it is sold to the market. Only the goat offspring of the goats are sold. So we sign very structured MOU with the potential beneficiaries, and which specifies to do things and not to do things, and then that builds pressure on them. So although we are not very we are not our model is not in line with the NBFCs, but we have taken some good things of the NBFC and banking finance operations and integrate in the interest of risk management.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shinde, and
Thank
thanks all the participants for a great evening. Have a good evening.
thank you so much. We had good time.